mid-morning to early afternoon commute. And then now that we head to the north, there was rain there earlier this morning, but it looks like it is going to be much heavier than what we've been seeing really throughout the shows. This is mainly south of Huntsville, really south and east of that, out toward Cold Spring. So if you live in any of these spots, it's important to stay inside as we could be seeing those winds start to pick up. Now, the flash flood risk is going to continue throughout the remainder of today. Whether you're dry right now, that definitely doesn't mean that you won't be seeing any of that shower activity and the potential for some street flooding. Let's take a look at our 2-day rainfall total. That's going to be what we saw yesterday morning and this morning, ranging anywhere from 4 inches to a foot of rain north of Huntsville. And you can see this is on a little bit of a loop, and there's some flash flood warnings that have now been extended until noon. Reason being, well, the rain is just training overhead, meaning it's not going anywhere. So we're seeing a lot of rain in a short amount of time in a rather small area. So all eyes are going to be on that. And I quickly just want to show you our 5-day rainfall. In addition, what we've seen at the beginning of the week, upwards of 18, if not 19 inches in total. And I wouldn't be surprised if the National Weather Service does put out a report to let us know how much rain we have seen. But whatever we are seeing up north, which is the most plentiful rainfall totals, that has to come south. So the cresting of the San Jacinto River, the East Fork and West Fork at Humble and New Caney aren't going to be cresting anywhere from starting as early as late tonight and continuing throughout the morning on Sunday. And that means we're actually not going to be reaching that flood stage until sometime early, if not the middle of next week. So make sure you stick with us here. We'll have more updates coming up.
All right, thanks, Allison. Again, we are standing by for a news conference from Harris County Judge Lina Hidalgo. Even if you are joining us from the Kingwood area and things don't look too bad right now, they're warning that it is going to get worse along parts of the east and west fork of the river there.
And it's so hard to even think that it could get even worse because we have been seeing all of these high water rescues, people trapped in their homes. We even heard from it sounded like a teenager earlier who was talking about just going to sleep last night. He thought that they might get an inch or something, but then they got 4 feet in their house. The dad had to evacuate from his bedroom downstairs and get upstairs just to be safe.
Scary.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and the water was all the way up to their, I believe he said, the 2nd floor of their house. So insane to hear right now that so many people are dealing with this. Let's go live now to Chelsea Edwards. I believe she's on I-10. Where exactly are you right now, Chelsea?
So we're in Baytown now, I-10 in Maine. If you saw us during the 9 o'clock hour, this is me and a photog, Jeff and I, we were out driving out I-10 as the rain continued to push east from Houston. So we gave you a shot earlier while we were driving. Not too many cars on the road. That was the good news as rain continued to come down in this area. Now it's lightened up. I think we're expecting another round within the next couple of hours or so, but we are definitely getting a much needed break. I'll tell you, even being here for the past half hour, we actually went out further east and ended up doubling back because we saw so much high water here off of Maine. But I'm just going to have Jeff take a look over here because I want you to see how much water is still on this feeder road. And just half an hour ago, I want to say it was a few inches higher than that, but that has since receded very much. But now we're looking at home right off of the freeway where they also rent U-Hauls at this location. The front yard just completely flooded, really. So we've been watching to see if that has receded. Looks like it's gone down a little bit, but quite a mess for the homeowners over here. Also the drivers, but it looks like nobody has run into issues for the time that we've been here. People have been able to cross safely, but of course not something that you want to be driving in unless you absolutely have to. Right now we're looking at the Transtar vehicle off to the side of the road, but no rescues just yet. And, I was at the Transtar office earlier speaking with Jeff Lindner, and he said that they have actually gone from level 2 readiness level to a level 1, which actually means that they have more boots on the ground. They have more teams ready for rescues in case people do get stuck in water. Of course, a lot of that is going to be geared towards the areas near the San Jacinto, where, you know, y'all mentioned people's houses being flooded and them already having to do so many rescues out there. He said it hadn't been too much of an issue this morning, but as we continue to see the rain, we are expecting for more emergency crews to have to respond to help people. And again, his advice was for those in those mandatory evacuation areas to go ahead and evacuate. Like, now is the time, not to wait, especially once it starts getting dark. Again, you can't tell how deep a lot of this water is. Like, we have motorists driving through different parts of the city, and a lot of times they're just guessing whether they can make it or not. Thankfully, we haven't seen too much trouble over here on the east side, but again, we're just expecting for it to get much worse as the rain continues to come back around into Harris County. So again, keeping an eye out for Judge Lina Hidalgo to give us an update. But right now, level 1 readiness with the Harris County Office of Emergency Management. They're ready to go. I'm going to send it back to you guys.
Okay, Chelsea, thank you for a look over there on the east side. Now up in Kingwood, I mean, they are having flashbacks of Harvey here. It may not be as widespread as it was in Kingwood back in 2017, but it is certainly getting close to those kinds of levels, and people are just on pins and needles right now waiting to see what's going to happen. Do I need to get out? Do I not? We have links to the maps on our website, and you can type in your address and you can see if you're in one of those like inundation zones.
And Shelby Rose has been there just checking it all out, just seeing what is going on, and it's been one dramatic scene after another. What a mess behind you, Shelby.
I know, we actually just have a Harris County high water vehicle that's coming. I'm gonna step out of the way to show you guys. I don't exactly know where they're going, if they're being called to a rescue at this point, but that is the second one that we've seen so far in the last couple hours driving through this road. As you can see, this roadway on Hamblin in Kingwood is covered in water. A lot of cars are turning around and not risking it, but we still have some that are going through this water. No one has gotten stalled out yet, so that is good. Yeah, see, we can have Jeep and truck, so you know, these taller vehicles definitely have an easier time getting through this. It's the smaller vehicles that we've seen, you know, turn around. But to kind of give you a perspective of this road, of where we're at, to my left is the San Jacinto. Now we're on the West Fork side, so we can swing the camera around. I can show you. I can only imagine that this is a home that is behind, you know, this fence line. You can tell by the mailbox there that this is under at least a couple feet of water. Can't even imagine the water levels closer to whatever home is back there, just because that is where the San Jacinto River is. Now, it's these areas that are being urged to evacuate. There was a voluntary evacuation order placed yesterday for residents in Kingwood that are closest to the river, saying that if they don't get out, and if they haven't gotten out by yesterday, last night, then they most than likely have to stay in place for 2 to 3 days, maybe longer, because their homes are going to be inaccessible unless you have a boat. And so hopefully a lot of residents did heed the warnings. There are shelters, numerous ones all over this area that are open, but definitely the biggest area of concern is the East Fork of the San Jacinto River. That is where those mandatory evacuations are in place. But here in Kingwood, we're really just seeing roadways that are covered in water. We haven't really seen, aside from this, what I can only assume is a house. We don't have visuals of it, but it's the roadways are the problem spots for our first responders. We heard from the Houston Fire Department Chief Samuel Pena yesterday. He said that all of their rescues in this area yesterday were just stranded motorists. So again, I know we've said it 10,000 times over the last few days. If you come across high water like this, just don't risk it. I know that you're seeing people drive through this. It is definitely not recommended, because we know that the water is rising here, because where I'm standing right here was completely dry maybe an hour ago, maybe less. And so now you can see the water just spilling over the roadway right here and going in this direction. So it definitely is growing, and it is going to continue to grow throughout the day. And that's what we keep trying to remind people, that even though it stopped raining for the time being, that doesn't mean that the floodwaters are going to recede. We're only going to see it get worse, and that was really the message that was hit home by the Houston mayor, as well as Harris County Judge Lina Hidalgo, that the worst has yet to come. So, you know, people in Kingwood, they just need to be prepared, and we're going to continue to monitor this roadway and keep up with all of the other roadways in Kingwood as the morning progresses on. All
right, Shelby, thanks a lot for sure. I think even if you don't have to leave, at this point, especially in the Kingwood area, for example, it's really best that you stay inside. I can say, though, yesterday, our Jonathan Mejia, he was live out in Kingwood and was interviewing people who were stuck in their cars at the time in just regular residential neighborhoods. It was one person. He had to leave, though, because he had a doctor's appointment. So, I mean, in some instances, you can't really avoid leaving your house, and then you might get stuck. But if you don't have to leave, it's best not to put yourself in the situation, and not, first responders either. Yeah.
Well, Ruben Dominguez has been running into road closures, accidents all morning long.
Hail.
Yes, you were trying to make your way up to San Jacinto County, but you never made it, Ruben. So you've been near Splendora all morning.
Yeah, we've been chasing the storm. We've been chasing after some of the harder hit areas, but we were north of Splendora. 59 closed all morning, and traffic being diverted, turned around. Big traffic tie-up up there this morning. I'm not quite sure of the status of it. We started heading south of Splendora, and I want to show you some video. This is about an hour ago. As soon as we got to the Splendora exit, really heavy rain. I mean, we were getting pounded, and then we got about 3 or 4 minutes of just hail. No audio on that, so you can't really hear it, but it was hitting the news unit pretty hard. We slowed down to about 20 miles an hour because visibility was terrible. Everybody was hitting their hazards. Just not a good day to be on the road. And while we were up in Splendora, or just north of Splendora, the one constant, even when the rain stopped and then started up again, I mean, the lightning strikes. Anywhere you looked on the horizon, every minute or so, every couple of minutes or so, you'd hear the thunderclap, you'd see the lightning strike. And at one point, it felt like they were getting closer to us, which is not a wonderful feeling to have. But take a look right behind me here, 59 moving, not too bad. Obviously southbound, you're looking at the southbound lane closest to you. No problems there as you make your way back into Houston. But again, if you are northbound, as far as we know, 59 still closed once you get just north of Splendora. A lot of 18-wheelers pulled over to the side with their hazards on, just trying to wait it out. We did not really see any flooding. There was some high water and a little bit of ponding on the roads, but that was about it. And we did come across one pretty major accident. Car swerved off the road, hit a telephone pole, lines were down, emergency vehicles had the entrance to Valley Ranch closed off. But again, just a pummeling by the weather for the Splendora area. And I know the folks up there ready for a little bit of relief, because it's just unrelenting. The past 48 hours or so have been just brutal. So right now we're just inside of 99, and eventually we're going to make our way south, kind of check on things over there. We've got a break in the weather right now, which is a great thing, an absolute very welcome sight. To not have to, the rain gear's drying off a little bit, which was not the case all morning long. At one point, it felt like it was raining inside the news vehicle. But all in all, we didn't see any major accidents on the roadway. That's a good thing, but we'll keep an eye on things. Right now, sending it back to you guys in the studio.
And Ruben, I actually heard some of the video you all were feeding back into our editors a little while ago, and the hail sounded terrible beating down on you guys. I'm just wondering if the news vehicle now looks like a golf ball, or was it not big enough to cause damage?
No, it wasn't that big. We took a look at it. I don't really see any major dents in it. So the good news, the news unit survived.
Yeah, well, that's good. And I was just saying it for everybody else who was out driving in that as well. Hopefully everyone's vehicles are okay, because that could be a mess to have to deal with later.
For sure.
All right.
Absolutely.
Speaking of a mess, I know the weather has been a mess in the Conroe area where Denise Middleton has been on this morning.
Yes, luckily you've been seeing a break though, Denise. Let's hope it stays that way, because people really need it to be able to start the cleanup process here. Are you still seeing water rescues back in River Plantation?
Yeah, still right over here. Oh yeah, that sound that you hear right now, that's an airboat. So they are making several more rescues at the moment. In fact, we were pushed all the way back. We were farther along there by the homes, but now we're back out here by River Plantation and Raleigh Drive. And so they have moved in several vehicles because they've been getting more calls for rescues. And after, you know, we spoke with the father and son, they brought out 3 dogs shortly after that, and then we saw homeowners coming, you know, just running to their dogs, and so we've been seeing a few more pets that have been rescued. So yes, they are certainly making some more rescues at the moment. In fact, I was just speaking with a homeowner here. He said that his friend is about to be rescued. Can we speak with you? Yeah. You have a drone out here right now. You said that's flying over there. What's the situation with him? Is he alone? Is he okay?
No, he's with his wife and son. He has a 12-month-old son, and so my son is flying a drone just to kind of oversee it and watch it happen. Okay. We live probably 3 streets down, but we left last night because we've been through this before, so we understand.
Right, for
the
Harvey.
Yes.
Were you surprised by the water level that you're seeing right now?
Well, a couple of things. We were surprised it didn't get as high as Harvey, just because of what the they were predicting it to crest at 125 feet, and it actually crested at 121. So it didn't get as much as Harvey, but just from the drone footage that we took already of our house, it looks at about 4 or 5 feet maybe inside our house. Harvey, we had about 8 feet.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Okay. And so your friend, why did he decide to stay? Because I know a lot of other people, it is voluntary, you know, so what has he been saying? Yeah.
He's friends with my son, and so they've been communicating back and forth, and so he said, hey, let's get him out. And so we talked to the authorities. So they're sending boats right now for them.
Yeah. Have you talked to any of the other neighbors? What has this been like for them? I know you guys have already experienced Harvey.
Yeah, we live on a cul-de-sac, and there's about 12 houses on our cul-de-sac, and I think everyone on our street, and we've been on that street for 21 years, and so we knew what the process was, and so we kind of came together and said, hey, let's everybody get out. So everybody on our streets left. Okay. So there's a few people that are still in there, maybe haven't gone through this before, and don't realize and don't know what to do. Right. So that's why we're just out here. We've been through it. We've been here for 20 years, so we're trying to help and facilitate as much as we can.
Well, that's great. So everyone has a place to stay. They have a place to go right now?
We're all good right now.
Okay, well, good. We certainly hope your friend is going to be okay, he and his family. Thank you for speaking with us.
All right.
And so we've been getting a little bit of a break at the moment, but it's been off and on, you know, and when it's on, it is on. The thunder is extremely loud, and so luckily we're getting a break. I know we're expecting some more rain later this afternoon, probably even before then, but it seems like they're able to get most of these people evacuated from this area, but the water is continuing to rise here in the River Plantation neighborhood. Guys, back to you.
Wow, several feet of water in his home, and it just unfortunately has kind of become a routine thing for a lot of these people who've dealt with, you know, the Memorial Day flood, Hurricane Harvey, now this, but you think of all the hard work they put into their homes and just how upsetting this has to be for a lot of people.
And our hearts go out to them, Denise. I know you're seeing it all right there, and ours to you too, because I know it's hard to witness. Thanks for being out there for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we are still, in the meantime, we're looking at the monitor here in the studio, standing by waiting for a Harris County judge. You can see here, Harris County Judge Lina Hidalgo to address the media in regard to emergency efforts throughout Harris County, specifically North Harris County especially. We're going to bring that to you live as soon as that happens. That briefing was scheduled to start at about 10 a.m., I believe, and we're still here standing by waiting for that. So we'll bring that to you as soon as we get that.
Yeah, it looked like they were trying to get the mic ready, getting the whole room set up. They've got all their monitors ready where they're closely keeping a close eye on that, so that's really good. And when are we going to get a break? When is it going to start drying out? You know, that's what a lot of people are wondering right now.
Yeah. Allison is standing by with another check of the forecast. Is it getting any better, Allison?
I will say it's getting a little bit better, but unfortunately it's not the news I want, and potentially my mic battery did die.
Okay. Here, Delon's going to give you his mic.
All right, so we've been on, she's been on, since 4 a.m. At least. And
this is
microphone
teamwork.
battery finally died. We're working on transitioning that and making sure she has a microphone so you can hear her perfectly. All right.
I think you can.
There we go.
I'll do this TikTok style. I hold the mic here. But we are seeing still some scattered showers. I want to let you know that coverage is really not expanding in the southwestern portion of the viewing area. So out near Sugar Land and South Acadie, but they really haven't seen much rain, if at all, this morning. So that's something that you'll need to keep an eye out for. The good news is it looks like it's just rain at this hour and not necessarily lightning. Cypress, you're in the clear right now, but Brookshire going to be seeing a few very light showers moving through. Let's take you out to the east side of the viewership. Well, here we go with these flash flood warnings that do continue, and some of them have been extended not only to 11 o'clock, but even noon today. And there's some areas of lightning. I do want to let you know the good thing is it does look like the hail threat has dropped significantly. If anything, it'd be very, very small. But let's take you out toward Cut and Shoot. You can see Four Corners, a few lightning strikes there, but right along what looks to be 69, Splendora is actually in a break from the rain. Now, we can't say that for earlier today because our very own Ruben Dominguez was out there and just saw a ton of very, very heavy rain move through. And Pine Grove looking at some moderate to heavy rain, a few isolated lightning strikes. But I want to take you out toward the Four Corners and even up near Conroe. That's really where we're seeing the best chance to see some hail. And once again, it doesn't look like it's going to be widespread or all too big. But if it does go through, just make sure you go inside. Even small pea-sized hail is not something you want to be standing out in. But let's take you up north. And here you go. This is the widespread shower activity that we are seeing in the viewing area. And there's a lot of lightning with it. So if you do know where New Waverly is, if you're anywhere basically east of that, we are seeing widespread, very heavy rain. Any purple color that you see on your screen and the dark, dark reds, that is going to be blinding rain, meaning you're trying to drive through it and you can barely even see the car in front of you. Thunder and lightning on top of that, and the chance for maybe some small hail. Again, nothing severe at this time, but we've been seeing the heavy rain overhead now in these spots for at least the last 45 minutes. So we're going to be watching for the potential for localized flooding and flooded roadways that we saw just yesterday in that area. Well, that could be impassable. I'm just going to switch my clickers here, and I want to show you what we can expect our forecast modeling. Now, I was up front with you starting at 10 o'clock that the models have been changing and pretty quickly. So right now it looks like the bulk of the rain that's out toward Liberty is slowly going to be pushing east. But then here we go. By 1 o'clock, we could be seeing even more of the showers and storms up toward, let's say, the Woodlands, Huntsville, Livingston, Cold Spring, potentially even out toward College Station. That's through your lunchtime hour. Then it's going to turn much more isolated as we head into the early evening. And this latest forecast model has a lot of clearing starting by 5, 6 o'clock, which is good news for folks. Maybe you have some outdoor plans this evening. Flooded roadways a possibility, but it looks like by later tonight the rain will be clearing. But let's talk about when we're going to be seeing cresting. And it's important to note the timing has been changing throughout the morning. They've actually been extending any flood warnings along the West Fork of the San Jacinto River. This is going to be near Humble. The latest numbers and timing that I've actually gotten from the National Weather Service is it looks like cresting is going to be Sunday morning, meaning if you live out there, we've been talking to so many folks and they're saying, hey, maybe we got it easy. Maybe my house isn't flooding. The water's only up to the sidewalk, but I want to let you know that the cresting or peaking you can see here is not going to be until likely Sunday morning. So even if you're not necessarily seeing the rain in your neighborhood, that doesn't mean that you're not going to still be seeing that water continue to rise and move into your neighborhood. Now let's take you out to the East Fork of San Jacinto River. This is at New Caney. And the latest timing from the National Weather Service is as early as late tonight. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's going to be cresting or peaking where the water will be at its very highest potentially even into early tomorrow morning. So this is something that we are going to continue to watch. But like I've been mentioning, we are getting up to the minute information coming down from the National Weather Service. So the timing has changed a little bit and will likely continue to vary. But what I want to note is the downslope that we're seeing. We're not going to be reaching flood stage until early next week. That means the water is not going to be completely receded until that time. So if you have family or friends that live in any of these neighborhoods, just make sure that they are staying aware and knowing that we're not in the clear yet, even though I showed you that hour by hour forecast and it shows that the rain is going to be clearing out a little bit later today. That doesn't mean that the waters are going to stop from rising until we have reached that peak. Now let's talk about the next few days, because the model's showing some showers moving in for your Saturday morning, and then potentially on Sunday as well. It's likely not until early next week that things start to dry out, but then it's the heat we need to keep in mind. So folks that are in areas flooded neighborhoods, you're likely going to want to be cleaning up as soon as the water starts receding. But just know that by the afternoon of starting next Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that's when we are going to be heating up to the 90s. Now, I'm going to do some work and look back to see our last 90-degree day here in Houston. But what we do know is that it looks like it's going to be the next several days, Wednesday, Thursday, and potentially even more. So with that being said, be safe in the heat. And that's another area that folks could potentially get injury from. You know, you're working hard, you're trying to clear any downed trees in your neighborhood. We just want to make sure that you are staying safe and up to date on the latest weather. And we're going to continue to bring that for you. Thank you so much for sticking with us here on TV, but we're going to have a lot more on our digital platforms. For now, we'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Allison, thank you for that. Right now, we're giving you a live look at where we are expected to hear any moment from Judge Lina Hidalgo about the conditions, about what they're expecting. They're closely monitoring all of this. You can see everyone in place there, the news media in place, ready to ask any questions afterwards. And we are certainly there live to bring that to you. So as soon as that happens, you can count on us to tell you what's going on and bring you every single word of it. You're going to be joining us on Fox Local for that, and how you do that is you just on your smart TV look up Fox Local. It's a free app for you, and that's where we'll be streaming. As for our Fox 26 viewers, we are going to return you to regular programming right at 10:30. Well, hello there, everyone. Thanks for joining us here on Fox Local. I am Melissa Wilson.
I'm Heather Sullivan, and we are continuing to bring you live, up-to-the-minute coverage of the flooding that really has turned out to be devastating. I keep hearing so many people make references to Hurricane Harvey, and we've been stunned at how close some of the levels that have been reported that we're really not that far behind.
It's a sickening feeling of deja vu, and just knowing what's ahead, because so many of our neighborhoods have been there where, you know, we're going to picture all of their streets with all of their belongings out there, everything gutted. Everyone's going to have to do so much work on their homes. It's so expensive. It's heartbreaking, and you think about, you know, a lot going on. So we want everyone to know our hearts are out there with you. We're thinking about you, trying to keep you right now. The main thing is keeping everybody safe.
Yeah, and you know, Denise was just interviewing someone in the Conroe area where they're still doing rescues, or again doing rescues right now, people and pets, trying to get them out of homes. And she was talking with someone who had just gone through this with Hurricane Harvey, talking about, well, in that case, it was 8 feet of water in his home. He says now it's 4 or 5, but either way, like
basically the same damage. Probably.
Everyone's made all of these repairs, and now they've got the damage again.
Let's check in with Chelsea Edwards and find out where she is and what she's seeing. Take it away, Chelsea.
Hey there. Yeah, we've been covering the east side of town in Baytown right now at I-10 and Main. I mean, the sun is out now. This is a good sign. We've watched, even just in the past hour, this water on the side of the road, on the feeder, it almost looked like a river. But even in just the past hour, we've watched it recede tremendously. Now cars are moving through. Not advised to just speed through here like this, but most of the drivers are being careful, sticking to as close to the freeway as they can, but we've got lots of trucks and SUVs just rolling through here. Such a difference from what we saw earlier this morning driving through here, where this area was being pounded with rain. It was hard to see while we were on the freeway. Eventually it let up. I would say probably about a 9:45 or so was when we started seeing it let up, and that's when we spotted all the water on the side of the road here. So we've watched that recede. However, there's a homeowner here who also rents U-Haul trucks who's going to have to wait quite a while longer, it looks like, because we haven't seen their water go down too much, but hopefully it will continue to drain before the next round comes in, but a bit of a mess, but definitely not anywhere near what we've been seeing closer to the river areas. Thankfully, we haven't seen any emergency vehicles out here needing to rescue people or tow stranded vehicles. So things have been fairly calm, but I will say this area is prone to flooding, as we saw just a little bit earlier this morning. So it's something that people will have to keep an eye out for if they are in this area. Hopefully they don't have to do too much driving as we, get more showers. But if they do, we'd like for them to be careful and, slow down. No matter where you are, roads are still slick, right? So be sure to slow down and pay attention to what's going on around you, because some of these cars, we did see a car pulled off to the side. Now, we don't know if that car had been flooded, if there were issues with it driving through this water, but most of the vehicles we've seen have been able to make it through safely without any issues. But just a reminder for everybody to be careful as we continue to deal with this weather over the rest of the day and tomorrow as well.
Just for comfort, I noticed that was mostly trucks going through there, but I would not want to drive through that.
That level
no
would have made me very uncomfortable.
Me too.
Yeah.
All right, Chelsea. Well, thank you for being out there. It looks like a huge, expensive mess for so many people, and we'll be checking in with you throughout the day.
And we want to let you know, to our viewers, by the way, we are waiting momentarily for Harris County Judge Lina Hidalgo to step up to the podium that you see right there to give us an update. So right now we're hearing from the Harris County Emergency Management. We're at level 1 readiness, and we're waiting for her to step up to the podium. This was supposed to begin at 10 a.m., so it's 10:34 right now. So hopefully we will be hearing from her soon. And as soon as she is ready to speak, we'll go to her and bring you that information.
Yeah, we'll break in immediately to make sure you don't miss anything that she has to say, because it could be really important updates. I'm sure we'll find out with what's going on with the San Jacinto River and the release of the water that's making its way toward Lake Houston, and then how it's affecting all those families in that area. There are many mandatory evacuations in that area, and then some are being urged, if they haven't already gotten out, that they need to get out by tonight. So we'll talk more about that timeline as soon as we hear from her. Right now, one person who has seen a lot of damage out there, she has seen high water rescues of pets and people, is Denise Middleton.
Yeah, so let's go out to her. She's in Conroe, and she's been talking with some of the folks I was just mentioning earlier, your conversation, Denise, with some of the folks there that are talking about, water in their homes 4 and 5 feet high.
Yeah, there have been several water rescues. Before we got here, Caney Creek Fire and Rescue had already rescued 30 people and 20 pets. And so right now, I'm sorry, tell me your name, sir.
Levi Colonel.
So Levi has a friend who they are rescuing him right now, or has he already been rescued?
Right now, they're getting evac on the boat, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so he had a drone that was just capturing all of this. What have you seen so far?
So my parents actually live on Jeb Stewart. I grew up in the neighborhood. We've been through a few floods. On Jeb Stewart, just for our reference right now, we're probably sitting at about 4 to 6 feet. It's hard to tell from an aerial footage, but yeah, it's above the mailboxes on that street back there, and that's in the lower portion. And anybody back there now, that's what they got the boats coming in for evac, and so it's it's pretty surreal. It's pretty crazy to see how much water can do and move, you know.
Were you here during Harvey?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
How would you compare this to Harvey?
Very comparable. I don't think anybody expected it to be this much, but with there's a lot of new construction going on in Conroe. Conroe's blowing up, and so it's hard to get a good guess of what the water's going to do with all the new construction. You know, that makes water flow in all different directions, and it pushes a lot back to us.
Okay.
And so because of that, we're not really sure how it was going to handle.
And I'm sorry, we actually have a press conference that we have to get to. We're going to take a listen to Lena Hidalgo right now.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Right now because of timing. Yesterday we asked that several neighborhoods evacuate and that others either evacuate or prepare to shelter in place. We expected the flood wave to arrive early tomorrow morning. It hasn't arrived yet. The weather continues to be a little bit unpredictable, but the water's already fallen in Polk County and it's on its way. So the fact that it hasn't arrived yet doesn't mean that it's not arriving. It will come around midday today to the areas that will be affected, the same ones we talked about yesterday. Right now, you may think, if you live in those neighborhoods, that things have leveled off and we're good to go, but this threat is ongoing and it's going to get worse. It is not your typical river flood. I know that folks who live along the river, they're river people, as we discussed when I was out there the other day. They see this happen all the time. This is not that. This is not what happened in January. This is much worse. It's a catastrophic event, and we all need to take the urgent and necessary steps to respond accordingly. So whatever actions you still haven't taken that we've requested, please take them now. If you're home right now in the areas where we have asked for a mandatory evacuation, you're extremely vulnerable. I just talked to Polk County Judge Sidney Murphy, so it's north of us, and in some ways seeing what's taking place there is like seeing the future. They have been extremely hard hit. More than 700 homes in Polk County have been flooded. They had power and internet lines go down. Several communications closest to Lake Livingston, our current communities are under a boil water notice. Here, once the water reaches us, we do expect that a couple hundred structures are at risk of flooding. I've spoken with Governor Abbott just a few minutes ago. The state is monitoring. He has made sure that everything we need, we have. Right now, we've said, you know, the folks north of us are in more urgent need of resources, but we're ready to request additional resources and they're ready to send them as soon as we need them. At 7 a.m. this morning, we moved our Office of Emergency Management to the highest activation level. That's level 1, maximum readiness. That means that all partners need to coordinate their response plans with our Emergency Operations Center. It means that there's an imminent threat to life and property ongoing throughout the day and possibly the weekend. All protective measures should be taken. The recommendations are the same as yesterday. If you live in the East Fork of the San Jacinto River, and today we do have a map, so let me know if you guys can't hear me and I'll give up on this idea, but East Fork of the San Jacinto River, so up there, all the way from FM 10, 1485, down all the way to Lake Houston. Those are the folks that need to evacuate, and on the East Fork, it needs to be the folks, particularly on the east side. The folks on the west side of the San Jacinto of the East Fork are not in as high a risk because that area is more elevated. Folks who are in Kingwood, nearest the San Jacinto River, they're here, and here they're at more risk because they're right by the river. And so those are the folks that need to either stay or be ready to shelter in place for the next 2 to 3 days. So that is Kingwood, and then the neighborhoods right south of it, Forest Cove, North Shore, Bellawood, and River Crest, as well as Kings Point and Atascocita Shores. Rio Villa, they are the folks that need to also beware of these recommendations, but the river the water might hit them a little bit later. So this sounds very much like what I said yesterday. It's really exactly the same. What's the difference? That we thought the water was going to arrive around noon, around midnight, early morning hours. Right now, we're expecting it to arrive, this flood wave, at midday, around noon. So in a couple of hours here, it's not going to be exactly that time, but generally midday. And so the bad news is it's coming. The good news is people have a little bit more time to prepare. So please, please, if you are in the area where we have asked for a mandatory evacuation, again, that's the East Fork of the San Jacinto River from 1485 to Lake Houston, not even right along the lake, half a mile from the river, half a mile from the river. That's how far the mandatory evacuation area goes. Why are we saying mandatory evacuation? We had a request for voluntary evacuation a couple days ago, and the situation then was not threatening to life safety. The situation today is threatening to life safety, and so we want to signal how important this is. We can't force somebody to leave, but if you stay there, not only are you a sitting duck, but you're putting our law enforcement in danger. And at some point, we can't send law enforcement into swift water that is sure to pose a threat to their life because you made a bad decision. And so please evacuate if you are on the East Fork of the San Jacinto River, half a mile from the river towards the east. So those subdivisions, Idle Glen and Idlewild, Northwood Country Estates, River Terrace, Cypress Point, Commons of Lake Houston, formerly known as Magnolia Point, and other streets. So on our website on readyharris.org, we have the affected streets, but it's about a half a mile from the river. The other folks, remember, if you're gonna stay home, make sure that you have enough supplies for the next 2 to 3 days. Some of the people, as I was talking to the county judge over in Polk County, they thought they had enough supplies, but they weren't expecting to not have water. So think about what might happen, what the impacts might be to our infrastructure, and be ready. You need 6 gallons of water per person per day. You need enough food. You need medicines, enough food for your pets. Have a grab bag ready in case you do need to be evacuated or in case you decide to be evacuated. At that point, it should be safe to evacuate people, but we won't be able to do it without a boat. What we're doing, we had our staff and partners working through the night, and we've put as many preparations in place as possible. So far, the best estimates we have is a total 26 people have been rescued, another 15 overnight, 11 people before. We've rescued 30 pets, and so let me just thank first responders because the work is not done. A particular thank you to the folks with the Sheriff's Office water response team. So we did have an incident in Crosby ISD this morning where there was a bus carrying kids, and it seems they drove into high water and they had to be rescued. So that was the Sheriff's Office acting quickly. Fortunately, everyone was taken to safety. But this needs to serve as another reminder of the common fundamental principle to never, ever drive into high water, especially as this weather continues. There are some school districts, there's a couple are totally affected by this, like Huffman, for example. Crosby, okay, it's not all of the community is affected necessarily. So it makes sense that they would remain open, but there's still going to be street flooding. And so even if your school district is open, even if you're trying to go about your day, please be mindful of the weather. And you know, this situation turned out well, but it's a lot of risk to put these kids in. I did speak to the superintendent. It's Superintendent Paula Patterson over there. We don't know the exact number of kids yet. She's going to announce that as soon as she has it, and I think it's very responsible for her to not be making any guesses. In terms of the shelters, we did close the Leon Grayson Community Center, but we still have 3 still available. All of them take pets. That's Greenhouse International Church, 200 West Greens Road. That one can serve as a shelter also for people without power over in the northwest side of the county. That's about a 20-minute drive to Greenhouse International Church, Calvary Baptist Church, 816 North Blair Avenue, and Philippians New Faith Missionary Baptist Church, 7858 Angus Street. So these folks are all churches that always step up. So let me just thank them as well, along with our law enforcement. The last piece I want to address here is the Lake Conroe releases. So I know a lot of folks are concerned that the Lake Conroe releases are actually making flooding worse in the communities along the San Jacinto. But that water accounts only for about 20% of the water that gets there. And here's why. The watershed that Lake Conroe is in is actually quite small. The watersheds next to it, Little Cypress Creek watershed, Spring and Lake Creek watersheds, they're much larger. So there's much more water that is coming from there to the San Jacinto River. The San Jacinto River Authority controls the release of water from Lake Conroe, and it's statutorily required of them that they maintain a certain water level. Their dam is a source of water for the city of Houston, and so they have a gate that they have to raise. If the water gets too high, the water will come out below. If the water gets over the gate, it could damage the gate. And catastrophic damage of the gate obviously would be terrible for everybody south of that. So yesterday in the morning, they were taking into the lake about 140,000 cubic feet per second. That's about the size of a basketball. They were letting out at their peak about 70 cubic feet per second. They're holding back, according to our emergency team here. They're managing the pool very well. So I know it's frustrating, but just know that as best we can tell, they're managing this in the optimal way within the constraints that exist with the amount of rain falling and with the fact that they need to protect the integrity of those walls. So after these major impacts midday today, we hopefully will get another break, but we can't know the forecast for over the weekend. Because of the nature of this weather, we won't know much until about 6 hours ahead. So the story's not over. We'll do our best for the community in the days to come, but it'll take us all working together to get through this. And I have every confidence that, like always, we will get through this challenge and we will prevail and we will support the communities that have been affected. Let me repeat briefly in Spanish and then we'll take questions. And of course, Jeff Linder and Mark Sloan here are available to take questions as well. So, el día de ayer le pedimos que varios vecindarios evacuaran obligatoriamente y que otros evacuaran o se prepararan para quedar en lugar 2 a 3 días. Nosotros esperábamos que la ola de inundación llegara alrededor de la medianoche, las horas temprano de la mañana, y esa ola de inundación no ha llegado. Pero viene en camino, esa agua va a venir. ¿Por qué? Porque el agua ya cayó, ya llovió al norte, en el condado Polk. Entonces, simplemente la estamos viendo venir. Si usted vive en esas áreas afectadas o conoce a alguien que vive allá, puede de pronto pensar que las cosas ya se han establecido, se han nivelado y que estamos bien. Pero ese no es el caso. Hay muchas personas que viven a lo largo del río San Jacinto que me dicen, nosotros somos personas de río, conocemos esta área, a cada rato nos estamos inundando. Yo sé que ese es el caso. En enero hubo una inundación. Este evento, este desastre no es enero, es mucho peor, no es una inundación estándar, digámoslo así, de esa área del río San Jacinto. Entonces, por favor, tómelo seriamente. Si no ha tomado acciones aún, tiene la oportunidad de tomarlas ahora. La buena noticia es que tiene más tiempo, hasta mediodía, 2 de la tarde, por ahí. La mala noticia es obviamente que la ola de inundación aún viene. Si está en casa en este momento en las áreas de evacuación obligatoria, por favor, sepa que está en una situación extremadamente vulnerable. totalmente indefensos contra esa agua que viene rápidamente hasta el segundo nivel de una casa, inclusive las casas elevadas. Acabo de hablar con la juez del condado, Sidney Murphy, en Polk County, y me compartió lo que ha sucedido allá. Básicamente, lo que sucede ya es nuestro futuro, porque es la misma agua que viene bajando. Más de 700 hogares en el condado Polk se han inundado. Varias comunidades están sin agua y sin electricidad. Nosotros predecimos que alrededor de un par de cientos de estructuras se van a inundar. Acabo de hablar también con el gobernador Abbott, nos están apoyando muy bien, tienen todos los recursos disponibles, les hemos dicho que pueden dejar los recursos al norte y ya si necesitamos algo les pediremos y nos los pueden enviar. A las 7 de la mañana, hoy día aquí estuvimos y movimos el nivel de emergencia a nivel 1, ese es el nivel más alto. Significa que todos los socios deben coordinar sus planes de respuesta, que existe una amenaza inminente, que hay peligro a la vida y a la propiedad. Entonces, es por eso que necesitamos que tome las acciones que le estamos pidiendo. Específicamente, como hemos dicho, si vive en el brazo este del río San Jacinto, al lado este, media milla de ahí hacia el este, necesita evacuar. Es una evacuación obligatoria porque queremos demostrar que no es lo mismo que pasó hace un par de días. Esto es extremadamente serio. Y si usted se queda en casa y baja esa agua, que además de ser muy profunda, viene muy rápido, llega un momento en el cual ni siquiera podemos enviar a los bomberos a que los rescate porque sería un problema de vida o muerte para ellos. Entonces, por favor, evacúe. Si vive al lado de Kingwood, contra el río, hacia el brazo oeste o el brazo este del río San Jacinto, justo ahí contra el río, va a tener problemas de inundación. Entonces les pedimos que por favor salgan, a menos de que estén preparados para permanecer en lugar 2 a 3 días. Si se va a quedar, considere que es posible que se vaya la luz, es posible que se quede sin agua. Entonces necesita 6 galones de agua por persona por día, suficiente comida, suficientes medicinas, comida para los animales y una mochila lista en caso de que haya que evacuarlo. En cuanto a lo que estamos haciendo, se han rescatado 26 personas, 15 anoche, 30 mascotas y seguimos trabajando. En cuanto a los refugios, va a cerrar el Leon Grayson Community Center, ya cerró, pero Greenhouse International Church, 200 West Greens Road, Calvary Baptist Church, 816 North Blair Avenue y Philippians New Faith Missionary Baptist Church, 7858 Angus Street, todos reciben mascotas y están abiertos. Todos vimos en las noticias el bus escolar en Crosby ISD, que lastimosamente decidieron manejar y conducir en aguas altas y tuvieron que ser rescatados. Hablé con la superintendente Paula Patterson, no sabe todavía el número exacto de niños, entonces en cuanto lo sepan lo van a comunicar, pero la lección acá es que hay que seguir ese principio común fundamental de nunca conducir en aguas altas. Está bien que el distrito escolar siga abierto. El distrito de Hoffman, por ejemplo, cerró, los que están justo ahí al lado del río, donde la mayoría de la comunidad se va a ver afectada. Si su distrito escolar sigue abierto, si necesita salir por necesidades, está bien, pero no lo haga con las aguas profundas. Es muy peligroso. Y menos mal, los niños están bien, pero pudo haber sido una tragedia. Lo último es el lago Conroe. Sabemos que se está permitiendo salir agua del lago Conroe. Entonces mucha gente le está echando la culpa a los líderes que manejan ese lago. Lo que quiero explicar es que al lago Conroe no llega todo el agua que está cayendo del norte a sur. La mayoría del agua, el 80% del agua, llega de otros sitios, más no del lago Conroe. Entonces, es parte del problema, pero solo una porción pequeña de un 20%. Y la autoridad del lago tiene que bajar el nivel del agua, tiene que permitir que el agua salga. Lo que hacen es levantar las puertas un poco, va saliendo agua, porque si el agua sobrepasa la parte de arriba de las puertas, puede dañar esa puerta, esa represa, y ahí sí estamos todos en problemas si sale toda esa agua del lago. Finalmente, espero que después de los impactos de hoy tengamos un descanso.
You know, when the water started to come up, what was your decision not to leave until now? Why did you make?
Well, no, I left last night, but I left my street back here, so I didn't know it was going to come up anyhow. So yeah, this morning when it was raining, I woke up seeing it rain, and you had some trouble.
And we're continuing to monitor Harris County Judge Lina Hidalgo, who has been giving us a Spanish version of all of her words of just telling everybody what is going on with the water and the rising waters in the Houston area. Meanwhile, you may have been watching on the right-hand side of your screen who was walking through those high waters with his dog. Let's listen into Shelby Rose, who's talking to him right now.
Like I said, I was trying to get my street back and get it running, but a little bit too late for that.
Great, thank you.
All right.
East Fork of the San Jacinto River, and one part is against the West Fork of the San Jacinto River. And so the streets right along the river, that's where we might see structure flooding. We definitely will see street flooding, and we're asking for folks to leave unless they're prepared to shelter in place for a couple days. The other point is we were looking at the hospital numbers for our region. We have a level 1 trauma center at Memorial Hermann and at Ben Taub Hospital. That's where we can take the toughest emergencies. They're at red. They're very full right now. So if folks needed another incentive to evacuate, where we have requested a mandatory evacuation, that's another one. Is the highest level of acuity hospitals are pretty much the fullest they can be. So anyway, we'll take some questions, and thank you again.
I know it's not an exact science, but what happened that the forecast for the bulge of the peak flood, what happened to change it from midnight to noon?
Let me let a meteorologist answer that.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's not an exact science. And so, routing water down through these watersheds can be difficult sometimes. Some of this water goes into storage. The drag of the vegetation and how the watershed responds can result in timing differences. So I like to be more general with stuff, midday, evening, morning, that type of thing. So the good news is this gives us a little more time. The point being, the water is still coming. It is going to get here. It is just outside the county line coming in. This is the first part of the rise of the water. And then we're still looking at peak sometime tomorrow afternoon into tomorrow evening on both the East Fork and the West Fork. The East Fork may be a little bit faster than that, but we want to hold that timing right now. The good news is we have not seen any significant changes in the height of those peaks. So we're still looking the same height that we've been expecting the whole time on the East Fork, roughly the same height on the West Fork.
So
Go ahead.
It's going to get bigger today and stay through tomorrow, or I'm just
So the water's going to rise. And as the water rises, it spreads out. So it inundates more land near the river. So it's going up in height and it's spreading out at the same time. And that is going to start happening within the next few hours and continue into tomorrow evening, where it hits that peak. So that's the maximum height, maximum extent. And then it's going to start going down. The water starts coming down and that extent starts streaking back in toward the river.
How long do you think the rain is going to last?
We will continue to have impactful flooding on the San Jacinto River through the entire weekend and probably into Monday. The wild card to all of this on the recession part is if we see additional rainfall as we get into Saturday, Sunday, Monday. Right now, with what we are seeing, and I would not say the confidence is really high on the forecast, the weather forecast part of this, but what we are seeing, we feel confident that the water will begin to go down Sunday and get off of most of the roads and out of most of the structures Monday into Tuesday.
You talked about the number of homes in a danger zone and hundreds of structures. Is that mostly in the mandatory evacuation area?
Yes, so I do advise folks to check readyharris.org, and we sent a wireless emergency alert yesterday to the people who live on those areas with the pink and the orange. So the pink is the mandatory evacuation area, and if you zoom in, you can see, you know, as close as we could map it, and that is where the homes are gonna, the water, as we predict, is gonna reach a second floor, even homes that are raised. The orange, we don't think that the water level is going to get as high to where you could stay. It's not going to affect that many homes. You could go to a second story, but you're going to have some issues with resources if you didn't keep them. And it may, and then further in, further west and south, there will be a much lower chance of impact. So again, for folks in Kingwood, I don't want to alarm everybody. It's just along the river. Bueno, en el área rosada arriba, en el mapa, se dan cuenta que hemos puesto ahí ese color con toda la matemática que estos científicos y meteorólogos tienen para ver hasta dónde va a llegar la inundación. Y esa inundación va a ser muy profunda. Entonces, les recomiendo visitar readyharris.org. Está ese visual. Y ayer, de hecho, enviamos una alerta a los celulares. Sé que la gente lo recibió. Nuevamente recordándoles lo que va a suceder. Entonces, en esas áreas rosas, el agua va a ser tan alta y va a venir tan rápido que si se quedan es muy, muy alta la probabilidad de una lesión o inclusive la muerte. Puede que sea difícil que pasen los bomberos a rescatar a personas o animales por la velocidad del agua y la cantidad del agua. Como dijimos ayer, la cantidad puede llegar tan alta que llegue hasta las líneas eléctricas y ahí le queda casi que imposible a un bote pasar. El área naranja es donde va a haber inundación también, y si le hacen ahí el zoom pueden ver hasta las calles, y esas son áreas que lo más probable es que se inunden, es posible que haya agua en los hogares, pero no va a ser mucha agua, entonces ahí no es tanto el riesgo a la vida, sino más el riesgo a las estructuras, que mal que bien, bueno, eso se arregla, y pueden permanecer ahí en un segundo piso, pero obviamente tienen que tener las provisiones como las nombré. Not many. I think we had 2. The one, Leon Grayson, I don't think anybody came. And then the other ones, it was, just a handful of people. And we do expect that as more folks need to be rescued, we might use them more, but it's a thing that is necessary. And, if people don't use them, great, but you don't want people to need them and then not have them.
And the people that were rescued, is that mostly vehicle rescues, or was anybody rescued from a home?
I don't know the answer to that.
Based on the information we've received so far, I'm Mark Sloan, I'm the Emergency Management Coordinator. The information is some were from vehicles that had driven into water and needed assistance, as we talked about this, the Crosby school bus. Others were in their homes that needed assistance evacuating. So it's a combination of both. The first responders in the field are prepared to react and respond. I can't emphasize enough what the judge mentioned earlier. We're asking people to take the appropriate action so we don't put our first responders at risk. They are going to do everything for life safety for you, but you need to do those actions as well, because we don't want them putting their own lives at risk to go help you when we've asked you to do something for yourselves. So they may not be able to get to you when it is too dangerous for them. So do what the judge has requested in order to protect yourself and family.
Is there still time to call 911 if you need help evacuating?
911 is operational across the county in all districts. And if people call 911, first responders will react. But if the crisis in the water is too high where they don't have the appropriate equipment or can take the appropriate safety measures for themselves, they may not be able to get you in a timely manner.
And I want to remind folks, it's the depth of the water, obviously how much it stretches, but also the speed at which the water is coming. And so that's part of the danger and part of what people are going to be facing if they stay in those areas that need to evacuate.
Can you talk about the health dangers of just being in the water itself?
Yeah, we don't know what's in that water, right? And there's a lot of sediment. The water's coming fast, so we don't recommend that people get in the water. The other thing we're looking at is the water obviously eventually is going to get to the ship channel, and so that means industry, that means bridges, and so we are working with industry. We're working with the pilots that pilot the ships to where if we have any major debris, we're controlling that as best we can so that there won't be large impacts. Lynchburg Ferry's been closed. It continues to be closed, and Washburn Tunnel is open. But there's certainly pretty significant impacts just given how far that river travels and eventually down to the ship channel.
Do you know if those schools in that area have been canceled, in particular the Crosby?
So I would advise that folks look at their school website and social media, the school district website and social media. Crosby, from what I know, is still open, and that's fine. It's ultimately it's their decision. They have a call with the team early in the morning as well as the night prior. And there, if you live in Kingwood, for example, it's just part of your community. Some of the other areas, it's just however much far away from the river. And so if your school district's even farther away from that, it may be reasonable for them to remain open. What is not reasonable is for anybody to drive into high water, whether it be a school bus driver, whether it be a student or a guardian or parent. All right. Thank you all so much. Oh, yeah.
Harris County Judge Lina Hidalgo there, just giving us a major update on what to expect. Also speaking there with a meteorologist about what is coming in the next few days. It sounds like everything is going to peak tomorrow with the San Jacinto River around tomorrow night, Saturday night, but then continue on until Sunday. And they're telling everybody in that area to get out and then make sure that they have 6 gallons of water per person per day. Make sure you have food and clothing, everything for your pets are the good idea.
Yeah, we're certainly thinking about everybody impacted in our northern suburbs. Our coverage continues on Fox 26 News at noon. Make sure you are tuned in there, and in the meantime, download the Fox Local app. We'll update you throughout the afternoon on that as well.
And you can always find us on fox26houston.com. Be safe, everyone. Thanks for being here with us, and we hope you have a safe weekend.
Pressure to come in and tilt the trough negatively, and boom, there's a ton of wind shear, and here we go again.
Exactly. This is the time of the year where we have pretty much